So the notion for our project began on the contractors driven process of building in America. Uh, for many suburban homes lacking any kind of cultural identification. Homes are made as quickly and cost effective as they can, resulting in minimal variations and reflections of those who inhabit that space. Our qualitative research method from Hackathon 1 consisted of field studies through direct observation of suburban contexts. The initial element of research has been fixated on documenting surrounding suburban homes in 3 separate Michigan towns with diverse demographics from one another. Through an analysis and discussion, our team looked for underlying patterns and distinctions between the documented homes and distributed them in a Venn diagram. A correlation between the suburban homes and the collected data is utilized to find any patterns that may impact the suburban area's identity. For Hackathon 2, our team began to focus on one suburban community to address our findings from earlier documentation. Within Michigan, Oakland County is home to just less than half of Michigan's Japanese population, and Novi is a city with the most Japanese residents, just over 3,000. Our case study is focused on Meadowbrook's Glen neighborhood, a traditional American suburb with a dense Japanese population, living in a mostly typical suburban home style. Our project's audience is a concentrated suburban community of first-generation Japanese American immigrants.
This is the McNamara family. They are originally from Osaka, Japan. When Gaku received word of a promotion at work, he and his family made plans to move to the community in Novi, Michigan. They were extremely excited. However, like many immigrants, there were inherent difficulties once they arrived in America. Aside from the struggles of having to adapt to the various differences of life from moving, they were also forced to make some cultural adaptations when it came to food, language, and lifestyle. Perhaps one of the hardest parts of their transition was feeling at home in their new American-style home. While they may have signed on to some of these challenges by making the decision to move, they couldn't help but wonder what could help make this transition less drastic. Our aim is to help take some of those initial shocks away by the move, by learning from some of the various successes of our clients' culture and using those to help make their new home feel more like home. For the McNamara family and other families of Japanese heritage, small decisions like how spaces flow together, rituals and other approaches to seating, or material selections can make a world of a difference. When these new families are able to feel more comfortable in their own settings, they help spread positive influence of their traditional cultures and in turn provide a more culturally inclusive neighborhood, furthering the overall well-being of the community.
We want to create a more culturally inclusive environment for immigrants by merging their cultural behaviors and traditions with the surrounding suburban conditions. Through suburban redevelopment, we can reintroduce some of the strengths and benefits of various cultures back into the everyday lives of suburban American homes.
With that being said, here we are trying to address the issue that arises when effects are added to try to create a specific look. Our aim is to have a set of guidelines that map out the process of creating a culturally inclusive design. This is to keep from applying the same solutions over and over. We would look at the individual client's heritage, as well as backgrounds, cultures, to get a better understanding of the necessary features for each of the contexts include. So this is broken down into a 5-step process that we looked at as first researching, secondly analyzing, third verifying, fourth adapting, and fifth interpolating. So moving into our 3 different contexts, the first one we're looking at is program. The program context is focused on flexibility within a traditional Japanese home. Since American homes are twice the size of Japanese homes, a Japanese home is typically highly adaptable, where a single room can be used as a study, dining, living room, and bedroom, all with removable walls and thin walls. Also, the furniture is versatile, creating alternate perceptions of each individual space. So our second context we're looking at is the physical site context itself. Our site context is the typical American suburban neighborhood that the Japanese Americans would need to adapt to in our case study. Additionally, our typical American suburban home sits on 10,000 square feet of land, producing a very different environment in comparison to a dense Japanese city. And our third and final context is the cultural behavior context, where traditional Japanese traditions are of sitting on the floor, eating, praying, and sleeping. This has a strong roots in traditional customs or rituals of Japanese families. The ritual has been found to have positive health effects and greatly influence the program of use of space.
Here we are showing an example of the working progress of our process of analyzing the various context, features, and systems of a culture and cross-referencing it with the given site. From this, we are able to highlight the key takeaways from each factor and apply it in a way that creates a culturally inclusive design.